All right, let's go ahead and solve a little bit more of a complex limiting reactant problem. And you can see this one already has the equation written for us, and I think always a good thing to do before you do anything in a problem is make sure it's balanced. This one clearly is not balanced. So we want to go ahead and do that first. Let's balance out the sulfurs and then the zincs. Pretty easy to balance, but always one of the things you want to do is make sure you balance those equations before you do anything. Just get that out of the way and then you know it's taken care of. What makes this problem a little bit more complex? Well, if you notice, this problem is giving us grams of zinc and grams of sulfur. The last one we looked at simply had it in moles. If you're in moles, you know you just have to go to the mole ratio and then you can go ahead and get your answer. So what's the solution to this problem? Well, we know if we can get to moles that we're pretty much home free. Is there a way to change from grams to moles? Of course, you learned that last year. You know you can change grams to moles, and that's really the ticket to solving this problem. If you take your grams of zinc, the first thing you want to do is, of course, convert to moles of zinc. So how do we do that? Well, we'll go ahead and set up our problem here. Grams of zinc to moles of zinc. 1 mole of zinc is 65.41 grams. Now, where did I get that number from? The 65.41 grams came right off the periodic table. If you remember, that's where we can get those numbers from. Once we're in moles of zinc, if you think about it, we're at the point right now where we were at last problem, where we started with moles of zinc. What's next? Let's go ahead and convert to moles of whatever we're looking for. In this problem, it's asking us for the moles of zinc sulfide. So go ahead and do our mole to mole ratio. And really, if you think about it, that now is the part of the problem that was just like the problem we just did where we started with moles, except we had to do this first part right here where we did the conversion to get us to moles to begin with. Mole to mole ratio, where do the numbers come from? That looks like a balanced equation problem as well. So there you go, 8 to 8 in this case. Go ahead and do the same thing for our sulfur, 6.45 grams of sulfur. One of the things you want to be careful of in this problem, I see this an awful lot whenever people convert this from grams of sulfur to moles of sulfur, is that it's S8. And that does make a difference in the molar mass. If it were just sulfur, you could use 32.07 right off the periodic table. But in this particular problem, it's S8, so we need to take that mass times 8. So 256.56 grams is our mass of S8. Again, right off the periodic table, just the mass times 8. And now let's go ahead and do our mole ratio. Moles of sulfur 8 to moles of zinc sulfide. And in this particular case, it's an 8 to 1 ratio. Let's go ahead and do one last step here before we do anything else, and that is do the conversion to grams of zinc sulfide. That's ultimately what this problem wants us to do, convert to grams of zinc sulfide. So I'm just going to do one more step in here, and that is change moles of zinc sulfide to grams of zinc sulfide. And do the exact same thing down here, moles of zinc sulfide to grams of zinc sulfide. And this is going to come right off the periodic table as well. The mass of zinc sulfide from the periodic table is 97.48 grams. That's 1 zinc, 1 sulfur added together. And just as was the case in the last problem, as long as you know which one of these two answers comes out to be the lowest, you know what your theoretical yield is. The top one is 11 grams of zinc sulfide. This one is 19.6 grams of zinc sulfide. Which one's lower? Yep, looks like that one up there. That's going to be our theoretical yield. And that means theoretical yield was determined from our limiting reactant. Zinc is limiting. That must mean that sulfur is our excess reagent. So again, whenever you have a problem where you're starting with grams, it's pretty easy to solve. Just make sure you change first of all to moles. Once you change to moles, do your mole ratio, and then you might as well go ahead and do this last step as well. Convert it to grams if that's what the problem wants. Why? Because it's going to go ahead and get you the answer in what you need. You could actually stop at this point right here with moles of zinc sulfide. As long as the units are the same, you can stop and compare. So you can theoretically stop at this point right here in the mole ratio and figure out what the limiting reactant is, theoretical yield. I just go ahead and put this last step on, convert them both to grams, and then you can get that taken care of.